serious political ramifications because of lack of this key institution. In fact, in the recent ongoing proceedings of impeachment, the matter of IEBC came in, whether we had a body to determine the suitability or eligibility of the next deputy president. And many Kenyans are very, very concerned about that. Many are saying, God forbid, if anything happened to the president, what would happen? We'd have a serious crisis. So today we want to address that key issue of the delay and the attempted derailment of the reconstitution of IEBC, which is the only institution mandated by our constitution to deal with matters elections. The other issue that is of great concern to many Kenyans is the issue of abductions and state-sponsored abductions, enforced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings. This will be the more elaborate issue that we'll delve into today. And I'll start with the first part of IEBC, then my colleagues will do the rest. Ladies and gentlemen, contrary to Dr. Ruto's allegations that critics of his Kenya are disseminating falsehoods, fake news and propaganda about the state of abductions in our nation today, our beloved country is at risk, and all of us are at risk. As a People's Law Opposition, we would like to address these crucial issues, and we would in fact be showing that it is not the opposition or other people who are propelling fake news or lies. In fact, it is Ruto himself who has perfected the art of deceit. On the independent, on the IEBC selection panel, we would like Kenyans to know that a week ago, the High Court directed the opposition parties to conduct elections in accordance with the IEBC Amendment Act 2024 and to have a nominee in place within 48 hours of this judgment, and in any event not later than 3 p.m. on the October 24th. That was the deadline we were given, and as parliamentary parties we did need to address this issue under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. The opposition parliamentary parties expeditiously met and nominated Dr. Koki Muli in order to beat the 3 p.m. October deadline. The name of Dr. Koki Muli was formally forwarded to the Parliamentary Service Commission the same day. The clerk, and this is very, very surprising, the clerk together with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Rectangular, have since refused to forward the names of the 9 nominees to the President for gazettement within the stipulated 7 days. This has really surprised us because after we met and we moved with speed to ensure compliance with the court directives, there has been no movement in Parliament deliberately to delay this process. This is meant, we believe, to allow the National Liberty Party nominee, who is, we believe, an agent of the Kenya Kwanza government, to appeal and to further delay this process. So we're here today as the opposition to demand immediate gazettement of the IEBC selection panel, who should move with speed to put in place the new IEBC, and we should stop the shenanigans and sideshows that have caused the delay for all this period, because the delay in having the new IEBC places the future of our democracy at stake. And I think after 2 years of William Ruto's leadership, we can declare today that William Ruto is indeed an existential threat to our democracy. And this interference with this key institution further confirms that. I would like now to invite my brother, Honorable Kioni, to take us to the second part on the abductions. Thank you.
Thank you. As indicated by my colleague, the next issue that we would want to address is the issue of police phone spying, state-sponsored abductions, hijackings, and extrajudicial killings. An investigative study by the Nation Media Group exposed what has long been suspected by Kenyans, and that is Kenyan police, in collusion with the telecommunication companies, have illegally and illegally accessed data belonging to Kenyans. This is the most blatant example to date that the Kenya Kwanza government has captured all our state institutions. The Constitution of Kenya Chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, Part 2, and Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, and Article 31 on privacy, specifically states that every Kenyan has the right to privacy, which includes right to have their person, human and property searched. Every person has the right to privacy, which includes the right not to have their person, home or property searched, their possessions seized, information relating to their family or private affairs unnecessarily required or refused, or the privacy of their communication infringed. Further, the Data Protection Act of 2019 gives effect to Article 31C and D of the Constitution and provides for the protection of personal data by requiring organizations to obtain consent from individuals before collecting, using or disclosing their personal information. It also gives individuals the right to access, correct, and delete their personal information. The law applies to data controllers, data processors, including government agencies, internet service providers, and even the supermarkets. Despite constitutional protections, that these illegally obtained records have been used to track down, harass, threaten, abduct, and support extrajudicial killings of Kenyans seen to be anti-Kenya Kwanza regime and its leaders. We condemn all telecommunication companies, including Safaricom, Airtel and Telecom Kenya, as well as any mobile operators, for illegally providing location records and data to security agents. Please be aware that you too will be held criminally culpable and responsible for the harassment of Kenyans and abductions and the extrajudicial killings. I will now invite our leader, our official opposition leader, and the leader of the People's Opposition.
How far have you gone up to here?
Fellow Kenyans.
Oh, fellow Kenyans. Oh, fellow Kenyans, the significant increase in arbitrary arrests, enforced disappearances, torture, and extrajudicial killings should be deeply of concern not only to law-abiding Kenyans, but also the international community and our development partners. If it was not clear before, the release of the investigative report, the lifting of the fog, or lawyers say lifting the veil, reveals the Kenya Police Service motto of utumishi kwa wote, quote unquote, or service to all, quote unquote, has been substituted by utumishi kwa Kenya Kwanza, quote unquote. Since June, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights and the Police Reforms Working Group have reported 23 murders, 34 forcibly vanished individuals, and 164 arrests, including those of Bob Njagi, Aslam Longton, and Jamil Longton, who were kidnapped in Kitengela and released after 1 month. Denzel Omondi, a JKU art student, was among the demonstrators who stormed the parliament on June 25th, was abducted 2 days later. 9 days later, his tortured body was discovered floating in a Georgia quarry. John Juguna Kuria, a civic educationist based in West Pokot, was reported missing for 12 days before his mangled body was discovered discarded. Over the past 3 days, Maverick Aoko and Boniface Mwangi have been kidnapped from their houses. After being freed, Mwangi was accused of inciting others. It's still not clear where Ms. Aoko is. The most alarming is that public mortuaries in Thika and Nairobi are requesting court orders to dispose 201 unclaimed dead bodies that the police have dropped off in the past year. Joining the growing international condemnation, the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, and the World Organization Against Torture, OMCT, have denounced this regime for gross human rights violations that amount to apparent breaches of international humanitarian treaties that Kenya has ratified, especially the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Conventions Against Torture and Enforced Disappearances. As the opposition, we demand that the security services from the National Intelligence Service, NIS, under the leadership of Nordin, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, and the DCI, led by Mohammed Amin, the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit, ATPU, under the leadership of Sid Kiprotich, the Serious Crimes Unit, led by Michael Sang, Joseph Boynet, the Deputy National Security Advisor, State House, and the Crime Research Intelligence Unit, CRIB, led by John Awango, ought to be held accountable for their violations of Kenyans' rights and made criminally responsible. Because at the end of the day, all public officers holding the positions I've mentioned are not above the Constitution. Furthermore, their immediate superiors, the Inspector General of the Kenya Police and the Minister for Interior and National Administration, should be held accountable for overseeing a service that has gone rogue with a focus on serving the interests of a few